everyone. I'm Elena Armijo, and I'm the founder of the C-Suite Collective. This is a company I created for executive leadership coaching and wellness that supports C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and founders. Now, more than ever, businesses are running faster and with fewer resources. Burnout, overwhelm, disconnection, and disillusionment are the new norm for teams struggling with an old paradigm. At the C-Suite Collective, we believe deeply that providing massive support for your teams through executive coaching and holistic practices will create an inclusive culture, higher levels of performance, sustainable change, and the organizational impact you desire. You can find us at the c-suitecollective.com. What does nature teach us about our relationship to ourselves and organizational systems in the world? We'll look at that in our coaching tip for the month. Today, our guest is Chelsea Rose Cotton, who is a living embodiment of the radical power of following your soul's longing. Her work in coaching and healing supports others in doing the very same for their own soul. And I adore this woman. I can't say enough about how powerful she is in the world and the work that she's up to. It's so important and critical as we transition into a new style of leadership and a new way in the world where we are looking at taking care of the earth in a different way and taking care of each other. I hope you enjoy the episode today, and remember, something powerful resides within you. I'm here to support you in seeing it and creating it. So what does nature teach us about our relationship to ourselves and organizational systems? I've been thinking a lot about this ever since I met Chelsea 4 years ago. And our conversation today really highlights a lot of what intricacies exist in nature and humans and business. So the very first thing I think about is interdependence. One of the clearest lessons nature offers is the idea of interconnectedness. And just as ecosystems thrive because of the complex relationships between plants and animals and their environment, organizational systems too also rely on interdependent relationships. So each member of a team, like each species in an ecosystem, has a unique role that contributes to the overall health of the functioning system. And when we fail to recognize how connected we all are and dependent on each other we all are, whether within ourselves or in the organization you're working, things begin to break down. Nature is a great reminder that we can't exist in isolation, and the work is to attune ourselves to the needs of others and the system and the environment. And this will promote holistic growth and well-being. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about is change is constant in nature. This is something Chelsea said in the podcast that really resonated with me, is that no matter what happens in the world, nature is going to change. And if we don't adapt or evolve, we become extinct, which is what happens in nature. So in the same way, organizations and individuals have to embrace change to develop. This is going to require flexibility, resilience, and a willingness to release outdated ways of thinking and acting. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm thinking about change, there's a lot of fear that comes up, even when there are people that are bringing ideas forward that I don't agree with. And instead of staying the same or staying dug in about my way being the right way, I'm more interested in what I need to be flexible with or resilience in the face of. What is truly important that I bring forward into the new adaptive approach versus what do I want to leave behind? So what I love about nature is that it teaches us that stagnation is not sustainable. It's just not going to work. The other thing I think about in nature is the cycle of growth that is present. So nature operates in cycles, seasons, life stages, or rhythms. And a lot of these changes mirror our own growth as human development. So just as a tree grows from a seed to a sapling, then matures into a full tree, our own personal development follows a similar rhythm: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and beyond. So in organizational systems, there are phases of inception, growth, maturity, and renewal. And nature teaches us patience in these cycles, reminding us that growth is going to take time and we got to honor each phase instead of rushing to the next. There's wisdom in honoring the natural pace of things, both in our own lives and in the trajectory of businesses and organization. I'm not great at this. I constantly have to remind myself that patience is going to provide something greater than what I can possibly see in front of me. The other thing I've been thinking about a lot is harmony over control. I really love the word harmony because I'm reading a book currently, The Mysticism of Sound, that speaks all about how harmony in everything in the world is a representation of music, which, for those of you that know how much I love music, I nerd out about that. And I really like to talk about what harmony in our lives creates. So in nature, there's an inherent harmony that balances growth and decay, or creation and destruction. And there's a rhythm to how things unfold, not through force, but through alignment with natural laws. And in organizations, the tendency to over control can lead to burnout and misalignment, which I think we're seeing in many different ways in the US government right now and in the world with our natural disasters. So I think the thing to look for is the flow rather than resisting the changes that are coming, is to be in the natural rhythm and the forces at play, while again standing in your values and what you believe, but flowing with it instead of controlling it. So leadership becomes less about control and more about creating conditions where individuals and teams can thrive, which is a very high gradient right now when people feel afraid or attacked. Or the people that feel excited about this, that want to control where the direction is headed to feel safe. All of these are opportunities to just take a look at where nature can teach you more about your leadership and your organization, but also yourself. Where can you get back in harmony? Where can you release control? Where can you practice peace, groundedness, and being with the patience of whatever the moment is calling for you? And where can we actually get back to a collective mindset to be connected again? We are dependent on each other. I have my mantra that I lead with a lot of my life is all means all. And if that really means everyone, what is required? Chelsea, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being with me. I was just sharing that you are a soul sister to me. I think that there's ways and memories in my life that I have that have kind of intermingled over the past 4 years with you, that I just assume you've been a part of everything because how much I love you and feel close to you and think so highly of you and the work you do in the world. So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor, and I'm so happy to get to be here just with you as a whole, and then anyone else who listens. It feels like it's always such a gift. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just jump right into what we've been up against here in March, or working with is probably a better phrase to use, with energy in the universe. So, will you share a little bit about your story and your background around being connected to source and the universe and magic?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I've been someone who has always deeply believed in magic. And even as a little girl, like climbing on land and nature and discovering fairies and connecting to the energies of the rocks and the water and the trees, and wanting to touch these other beings that in our, let's say, Western culture don't always hold as the sacred that they are, or the magic that they are. And with that, I was blessed and privileged enough that a teacher showed up at my doorstep when I was 13 years old. Her dogs ran in. Our family just moved to Ashland, Oregon. And two big dogs, I was reading in the living room, ran into our house, opened the door somehow. Their names were Armijo and Spirit. And I walked them out of our house, and there, standing at the end of our driveway, was this woman. And as soon as I saw her and then started talking to her, I just knew I wanted to work with her. And she is a shamanic healer from the Andean mystic path, and trained and worked with particularly the Quiro tribe in Peru. And so for 17 years, starting at 13, I went to every class she did, workshop, apprenticed with her as a healer. She took me on her trips to Peru and Ecuador and Mexico, and so worked with wisdom keepers and elders. And they, yeah, really showed me a different way of what magic is, of what it is to live in nature, what it is to live a life of the sacred, that then I've woven into my life in working in a nonprofit, founding a women's leadership program, doing leadership coaching and consulting, offering retreats. But that has been my foundation for all the work that I do.
That is such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing the beginnings of it. And I know a lot of the work that we've done together in rooms with leaders or building the C-suite collective together. You've been such an integral part of that, the growth and the birthing of C-suite collective. I'm wondering what it's been like for you to integrate that deep learning into the world. Because I imagine there's been some really hard times with having the old world meet the new world.
Mm-hmm.
What's that been?
Yeah, yeah. It's both. I mean, now I can say I feel like I've grounded and integrated a lot of that and more in my life. And so I just feel the beauty and the magic of of the gift of what that is. And inside of that, there has been, it's also felt really lonely at times and
Mm,
really like that I uh, speak a different language,
hmm
that I believe in things that are unseen, that in our world that is very materialistic at times, just like feels way out there to woo woo, whatever the different words that we can use. And so I've felt really isolated and, and I wouldn't give it up for anything because
Oh, yeah.
the experience of like this connection that I have to the land and how much I love Mother Earth and who she is for me and who she is for us, and how I get to then bring that, even if people don't get it, even if I
hmm
just get to plant the seeds of like, hey, this matters. Or, hey, if we start connecting to the seasons, what else becomes available for us in our own energy system and then in the world? So much gets to change. So, yeah, I think like what it is to be human, there's the really hard parts that are hard to be with, where we can feel so different, and then the beauty of what it is when we claim our difference, when we claim our own magic.
So powerful. And I'm just sitting in the moment with you, and the word that keeps coming to mind is the humility with which you lead, that it takes
Mm,
to hold such powerful knowledge, but also work with it and work with people that show up regardless. I'm imagining over here that if I had done that depth of study or seen all the things that you see, that I might be really wanting people to get it and like righteous and hey, I need you to listen, a little bit desperate and trying to put that on people, and that's not how you lead.
mm,
It's really beautiful watching your humility with people,
mm,
to bring them along, including myself. I've experienced that with you, even just being generous with me.
mm. Thank you. Thank you for that reflection. And I I mean, a part of that I feel like is is the learning and growth. There was a time as an idealist, and especially in my 20s, it's like also social change and justice and all, like my activism has changed. And in that, my leadership has changed. It's,
Mm,
softened. And I also via getting to really be with nature and the diversity in which she continuously shows us and how healthy ecosystems work is we need difference of opinion. We need different ways of being and living and action. And so from her too, there's a huge sense of like, even when I have confronting ideas or beliefs, I want it. It's also like, what do I get to learn? What am I not seeing? What do I get to know now from this that feels so important and so important in life and in leadership? So I mean, I will continuously, as you know, like honor Mama Earth as one of my main teachers and guides for how I show up in the world.
Well, and that's a beautiful transition into what's happening in our world. We're it's March 7th, 2025, and America's going through big pain and growth point, I would say. That's probably the nicest way to say it. And the world in general, I think, is scared. So, given what you just shared about how your leadership has changed, what do you have to say to the world right now about the unknown or the uncertainty that we're in? And, yeah, let's just start there and see.
Yeah. And also I'm really present to, even from your last question, and maybe this is a part of this question too, actually, is grief
Mm,
and our ability to like really be with grief and what grief does to us. And I do feel like that's a huge part of my ability to show up in the way that I do is my relationship with grief and how I've really allowed grief to show me how much I love.
mm.
And from that place, then I can show up with, yeah, a lot more love for the world, my ability to be with my own grief. And because there is so much, and that feels connected to this question that you're asking, because right now there's so much loss, there's a lot of pain. There's also a lot of beauty. There's a lot of magic. There's so both are happening. And I actually think they go hand in hand. But our willingness to really be with the grief that is occurring on multiple levels globally and loss that's happening,
Mhm.
I think is one of the important pieces here to like acknowledge and honor. And that's really hard also to do, especially in a world that doesn't always offer the space for that.
Mm.
Yeah. So that feels important to speak to.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead if you want.
No, no, what you got? Yeah.
Well, and in that, I think that at least my experience with grief, because my experience with grief is it like take you to your knees. It comes on without your permission,
Mm,
and that is also the unknown. That is also uncertainty. And so our ability to actually like almost welcome or go, okay, there is so much uncertainty or unknown here, and yet I still meet it with like open arms, feels, yeah, is vital right now.
let's talk more about that because I'm imagining for people that are listening, they have different relationships with grief, right? We say that word, and it's a very nuanced word for different people.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I used to hear grief and it was like a theoretical conversation. And then, as we all do as humans, we go through grief and we have grief and we understand it on a cellular level or a somatic level. And at this point in my life, I'm really loving your reference to an ecosystem or a system, right? And the cyclical nature of grief is a lot in my space these days with what's happening with my clients, what's happening with our government, what's happening with resources, what's happening with fear and scarcity for people. So grief has become nuanced in my world. And I'm wondering, we swim in these conversations every day for the person who doesn't have access to a coach or a healer or a therapist or any of these resources right now, what are some of the first access points of looking at grief in uncertainty or fear, if that's an easier word for some people to hear this through? Where would you have them start?
This might kind of sound a little cliche, but I really actually feel with breath, like
Mm,
even just really, I know even now in my life, in my own experience, continuously, even though I've been doing this work for a long time, like coming back to the basics
mm,
of what it is to like give my own spaciousness to feel myself. And I do that through even just a simple practice of taking like one deep breath. For me, and again, it's simple, but placing my hand on my heart and taking one deep breath in and like giving myself enough spaciousness to pause and breathe can make the biggest difference in the world.
Mm. Yeah.
And from that, then following a little bit of the breadcrumbs of like, okay, now that I've done that, it's like, how do I feel in this moment? And what do I need in this moment? Because we so often are like, oh, all of these things are happening. And so we have to do actions for all of it. But if we can come back to the just like the present moment right now, right here,
Mm.
breathe and ask. And I want to honor and acknowledge too that even asking how do I feel and what I need can feel really big, because
Yeah.
that in itself is like, I don't know how I feel, because for most of us, we haven't really been trained to deeply listen to how we feel. We've
Mhm.
been told to not like push through our feelings. And then from what do we need? It's like, again, that's also usually a push. So I want to recognize that even that simple act can feel like a big thing of like, I don't actually even still know how to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like some days I am clueless in that question, right? Even and I'm getting ready to turn 44 in 2 weeks. And I think, man, as a 44-year-old woman in the world, I still can't answer the question sometimes of what I need or what I'm feeling. So to me, this work seems eternal. And that could be my story, right? That I create to stay safe. But I'm imagining there's a lot of people out there that are, when you start to feel, it gets too scary to continue to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that relate to the uncertainty or the unknown that you were speaking about earlier?
Well, yeah, it's such a good question, love. I feel actually part of what our fear is, even in feeling like this felt sense of, let's say, I don't know what I'm feeling, it can feel a little scary. And so then we
Mhm.
don't know what to do. And so then we try to grasp. We grasp for all the different things. And same thing with big things in life that are uncertain. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what the future is. I don't know what this next piece is. And so fear arises, and we try to then grasp for the things that we do know. So even to me, even that simple practice of asking ourselves, and I've been doing this. I mean, I started doing this like spiritual work and embodiment work from 13. And I'll tell you right now, there's still days I don't know. And there are months sometimes where I don't know. And I've built a relationship, but what I will say is I've built a relationship to trust that even if I don't know, like I'll be okay, or I'm safe, or this will work out, even if my heart is broken and laying on the floor and it's unbearable and I can't breathe. And there are
Mm.
moments in my life that, and recently, that it's like I'm on the ground and I feel like this is unbearable and I can't breathe. And what's true is I now have a relationship that I have enough trust that even in those moments, they don't feel so scary. They're not as much filled with fear, even if it's unbearable.
That last line is really important. That even if it's unbearable, they're not as filled with fear because you trust yourself. And woo, that is wisdom for many years for people to work on. Because when it comes down to it, if we don't trust ourselves to keep our lights on or feed our families or find a job in the midst of everything that's happening or to physically be safe, right? There's a lot of communities right now that feel like all of their support structures are unsafe and the world is unsafe. They don't know where they're going to be accepted or where they'll belong. And I imagine that that is part of this connection with the universe or with God or with whatever entity you believe, is that trusting that you've got you and the world has got you. And that brings that grounding or those roots that you've talked about.
Yeah, and I want to speak to something which is pretty, it can be a little provocative and
Yeah.
controversial, but it's something that I practice and continue to live into and that I bring to my work and to my life, which is sacred but not always safe. And that's really hard
Beautiful.
yeah, because we want safety. And in my experience is like, and how I talk about that sometimes and in my own life is I love, oh, I've already said this, I love nature. Trees are my people. I feel so much more at home with trees sometimes than I do with people. And yet nature is not safe. Nature is wild.
Mm.
Any animal can come out, elements can occur, things can happen at any given moment. I can get lost and not be found. Um, and yet, for me, there's such a sense of sacredness that even though all this can happen, I actually have now, there is a sense of safety in my own body because of it. But that trust in the sacredness, even if it's not always safe, and that feels important for, well, I don't, starting to go elsewhere around that. I want to acknowledge that we're not always safe. And when we don't have our basic needs met, that is really important. So
Yeah.
I'm not talking about just like some spiritual stuff out there because that
Yeah.
really matters too. And
Yeah.
so that's not this.
Mhm.
But when we do trust, when we start to build trust in the unknown and inside of ourselves, then we can follow that sacredness even if it doesn't feel safe at times.
Beautifully said. And I get that that's the deep interpersonal work that you're talking about, the spiritual work when you have the space and the freedom to do that, as you acknowledged. And I mean, I'm thinking about like one of my clients asked me the other day, they said, if you were going to be, if the world goes to complete crazy times, whatever that can look like in the worst of your imagination, whoever's listening, and in my mind, it was like, all of the people that stand for humanity are like locked up in a jail cell together, right? And I was thinking about there was a deep fear in me, like, oh my gosh, like all of the privileged safety concerns that I have, like about my home or my dogs or, like the freedom and flow of my life, right? That the very first thing I thought of was the initial grab of those things, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose those things, right? But then when I really took a breath and was breathing through that, I was like, wait a minute, even even if there was all of us that were put away in some cell together, this would be the work that I would be doing, was the sacredness of myself and of the people that are around me that I would honor. And so I deeply appreciate the conversation around privilege and get to. And recently, in a conversation of resilience or safety, I've been looking at the people that have come before us that have had such tremendous courage and resilience in the face of the nastiest stuff we've seen. And it's just striking me in this moment that there's a piece of this that still is a spark in there around that. And of course, not easy, right? Like we're saying, but I wonder if there's something for people to be cultivating even amidst something really hard.
Mhm. I think that's the invitation, actually. Like,
Mm,
even inside of something that's really hard,
mm,
uh, can we build enough safety inside of ourselves to trust in because this world isn't safe.
right,
The world
right.
isn't safe,
And
but
never
it
will be.
and never will be.
Yeah.
But if we can start to this vessel that is our body that brings so much wisdom, if we start to really learn how this works, how we can connect to our heart, our soul, our intuition, other ways of knowing and being, then we can connect to the trust, be with unknown and uncertainty, and be in a lot more resourced place to work with all the things that are coming down the line.
Hmm. Beautifully said. That right there.
Thank
There's
you.
the action items and the practices to move forward with. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I know another big piece of your work that I'd love to just hear a little bit about for people to get to know is dream work. So, how do dreams play into all of this? And do you want to share a little bit about your background with dream work or what you believe?
Yeah, sure. Hmm. Well, it's all connected to even the work that I did as a younger girl and this deeply believing in magic, which for me was a is a like believing in the unseen and in these other ways of being, other ways of seeing, other ways of knowing. I don't know if you've listened to I'm going to do a little plug for something else right now because it's blowing
Oh,
my mind, the telepathy tapes.
oh yeah, I just started them. Yes, I'm on number 4. It's
Okay,
pretty magical. Everybody
it
should get on it.
everyone should listen. It's so powerful for those who want like science and need all of that a lot more than I do. It's a great like podcast. And what this podcast is talking about is these autistic children who are unspeaking, who don't have verbal use, how they're communicating in other ways. And I
Mhm,
and that what I love about this is I think this is just one way that's showing that there are other ways of receiving information, knowledge, and wisdom.
mhm,
And so dreaming is that. We
mhm.
spend however much time, let's say 8 hours though, of every 24 hours, if we're lucky, sleeping. And, there's many indigenous cultures that actually believe that our dreams are our real life,
Wow.
that is where the real work is done. And so for me, tapping into that dream world, it has allowed me to have access to other parts of my own consciousness. It has allowed me to time travel. It's allowed me to do soul retrieval. It's allowed me to work out my own wounding and the trauma that I've experienced in my life. It's also allowed me to pass information to other people. And
Mhm.
that's the part that for me in my life right now, I'm that I'm really excited about because with what is happening globally and in our country, whether it's in our lifetime or not, I imagine that we might not have access to the internet in the same way. We might not have telephones. We might not, or there'll be certain times where things are down.
Yep.
And our ability to communicate and trust that communication
Mm.
is going to be vital. And dream work to me is one of the ways that we can do that. And so starting to practice listening to our dreams, and I mean, I'm not talking about analyzing them, but it's like embracing them, allowing them, trusting them in what they're showing us, which I think to do that also needs to be done a little bit in community because otherwise we get into our own heads and
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, starting to practice that. Not only is it fun and powerful, and then we get to see how interconnected we truly are. But for
Mm.
me, there's a huge piece of, and this is actually going to be an essential way that we start to communicate with each other. And so building that skill, building our ability to trust in these other ways of getting information is vital for our humanity and for the humans on our planet.
That's amazing. So for those people that are wondering how in the world to even start that, I mean, I recently shared with you that Aaron and I decided to do 6 months sobriety from everything. And recently, well, I would say since we've been sober, all of these dreams have started popping up every night. So I was typically one of those people. I think I've talked to you about this with you before when you and I have worked together. That like I'll have dreams here and there, but they're not frequent. And typically when they're there, they are powerful. There'll be some message usually for me, but they typically haven't been scary either. They've just been dreams. Like something I would say like, "Oh, that was an interesting dream," before.
Mm-hmm.
But now, every night consistently, they've they've really been vivid, and I would say 95% of them are terrifying, right? So I just want to normalize
Mm-hmm.
that when we say dreams, we're not this, they can be anything. They could be the
Mm-hmm.
future, they could be beautiful, they could be horrific. And I think sometimes people get scared of that,
Mhm.
right? And what that may or may not mean. And so do you have anything around that or for people or for me in
Yeah.
that regard?
Yeah. Well, it's just so a couple things I want to name in terms of dreaming. For some people, you might also go, I don't dream at all. And or I
Mm-hmm.
never dream or I don't remember dreams. So
Yeah,
I want to say that that's also totally normal and you still are dreaming and there's still ways to access it. So I
excellent.
just want to say that we all dream differently. Some of us also don't remember our dreams sleeping, but we daydream. And that
Mhm.
is still a part of how we receive information. So there's all kinds of ways that dreaming
Beautiful.
occurs that feels important. And yes, I think especially right now for those of us who are tuned in and feeling the earth and feeling what's taking place, many of our dreams can be really terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I think is really important in any practice that I believe is we can actually ask for ease. We can actually ask
Mm.
for gentleness. We can ask for, like, before you go to bed, Elena, I would invite you, like, what are your intentions for your dreams? If you are,
Mhm.
explicitly asking for particular dreams, and then adding, and please may it come with gentleness. Please may it come with ease. Please, like, may I receive the message with like nourishment. We forget that we can ask for these things.
Totally.
Yeah.
I completely
you
forgot.
know? Yeah. So just even and I want to say, and that doesn't mean we always then get what we want. So we might
Yes.
still have a terrifying dream.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things about that too is just like the breath and like coming back to taking a deep breath and or even the grief that's unbearable is like
Mhm.
we can make some of these things wrong. And even though it's scary, is there a way to embrace or welcome, like, okay, I'm receiving this information for a reason? And then take care of yourself, like what is the nourishments that's needed to be able to hold what you're being given.
I love that.
Hmm.
Thank you. Yeah,
Hmm.
such a gift. But for anybody who's listening, I know sometimes people are resistant to even going there if they don't have more expansiveness with it. So that's so great. So I know there's a couple ways people can find you and work with you. We're going to link all your stuff, but I know something recently you've launched is the Beauty Way. Do you want to share a
Hmm.
little bit about what that is for people and how they might find you?
Yes. So the Beauty Way is an in-person retreat and then also a 9-month virtual program or online program. And hmm, it's a deep remembering. It's a deep remembering of the truth. And this is for women, it's focused on women right now. It's a deep remembering of the truth of who we are as women and a reclaiming and retelling of the stories that we've been given. And the first time, one of my teachers, I've had a few beautiful, amazing teachers in my life. And one of them, Shannon Thompson, who was the founder of Shakti Rising and who I worked with for 10 years. She was the first person that I heard, like, she would talk about the beauty way, just like, oh, the beauty way. And it really is a remembering and a reclaiming of the beauty that is around us all the time, even in the intensity of what is occurring on our planet right now. And can we follow the path of that beauty? Can we allow ourselves to actually receive it and let it guide us into our life? And no matter where we are, no matter what is occurring, there is beauty. And I know even in terms of talking about privilege and all of what's happening, I'm sure there can be people like, well, there's no beauty around me. And I want to actually, I would like go, but if you open, if we were able to see through the glasses of beauty, like even something small, then what occurs for us inside of our own beings and our own body, and then what allows us to be more resourced again to then find the direction we need to go, uh, it creates a pathway for us.
So well said. I'm so glad you're doing that work in the world. Even the word beauty, right, is not used very often anymore in our communities and society. So just hearing that word, there's a nourishment around the word for me when that comes up.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because for some there also isn't, like, because we have
Exactly.
so many, especially again in Western culture, there's so much around what is beautiful and what it means to be beautiful and what we have to do to be beautiful. And so to reclaim all of what really truly is beautiful, not again what we've been bought and sold, is such deep healing and transformational work.
So well said. I find the most random things beautiful that most people probably wouldn't. So thank you for the reminder. Yeah, cool.
Well, and in that, then it gets to expand what beauty actually really is.
Mm.
I have a little story. I just moved into a new place recently, and when I first was coming to see it, there was these beautiful big fir trees that were like surrounding the whole house.
Mm.
And then when I came to move in, the owners had chopped them all down, which,
Aw.
as you can imagine, for me, like, trees are my people.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was a shock. And I'll share that the journey in living here and now they've left the stumps too. There's these like 20 stumps. They didn't just take out the trees, there's these 20 stumps.
Whoa.
And so, but I'm having such a new experience with these stumps. Like, at first was this sense of grief.
Mm.
And then I was standing outside recently and watching the sunset, and the stumps themselves, like, kind of, they became a new energy. It almost felt like
Mm.
the seven dwarves, except they're now my like seven stumps. But they each had their own, feels like they have their own personality and their own magic. And there is a new life that is occurring that now, if I hadn't really stayed here long enough or been present to it, I would not have gotten to see what the death and like the rebirth is.
Mm.
And I don't explicitly remember why I'm sharing that story, and it might sound a little out there,
Well, the
but
beauty.
there's
You're seeing the
oh,
beauty in it,
beauty.
right?
Thank you.
We didn't
Thank
we
you. Like,
we
I'm
sometimes we
discovering
leave
these.
before we see the beauty.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
tying it together for me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, now I'm having this whole new relationship with these beautiful stumps that before were just like a shock to
Mm.
my system.
Mm. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, I like to ask every guest before they leave if you had a message or megaphone or even just a song that you wanted to send off into the world before you go, what would you want to say to the world?
I mean, it's simple and it's both complex, but really, and it's so interesting. I notice that there's fear that arises in my body even as I want to say it,
Mm.
because that also feels a little cliche or feels a little like, but I feel like what's so needed is the reminder of just like, I love you.
Mm. Mhm.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the remembrance of like love right now is so for ourselves too. And when I say it out loud, I say it to myself too. I don't know if we say it enough to ourselves. So however that gets to land or be the reminder of like, you are loved and I love you.
So beautifully said and desperately needed with the energy going on out in the world right now. Thank you so much for bringing your gifts here and sharing your knowledge and your love and your heart with the world. You're such a gift, and I'm honored to call you a soul sister.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you so much. I'm so honored.
I love you too. If this conversation sparks something for you, let it move through your week. Take it with you. Take on one small action to move the ball forward. And if you want to join our community of leaders who are daring to lead with courage and heart, you can find that at www.elenaarmijo.com or www.thec-suitecollective.com. I reserve a small number of complimentary 20-minute sessions for leaders who want clarity on what they need and insight into what is getting in the way. The practical next steps that create real movement and results in your leadership journey. So you can schedule a call through the link below. It's in the description. Like, subscribe. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for doing the work of being human together.